Welcome to What's the Point? A question we should all be asking ourselves, and the podcast by brand architect Bill Ellis.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to What's the Point? I'm Bill Ellis, and this is the place that we sit with people who've been shaped by their experiences, and we talk with them about how they discovered what really matters. My guest today I'm speaking with Gavin Lance Topp. Gavin grew up in Australia in a family that moved often and lived through some big changes. As a teenager, he found his way into a boxing gym, and the discipline of the sport gave him structure at a time when life felt uncertain. He went on to become the Australian Junior Middleweight Champion, fought internationally, and eventually was ranked number 12 in the world. After retiring from professional boxing, Gavin turned his attention to something different. He created Fight Like a Pro, which helped men step into the ring for the first time as a way of stepping into themselves. Later, he founded the Man Alive experience and the Become a Better Man challenge, programs that have supported thousands of men in understanding their purpose, identity, and relationships. He's the author of a book called A Rite of Passage, one that's reached readers around the world and speaks to the journey from boyhood into maturity. Gavin and his family now live on the island of Gozo, which is part of Malta in the Mediterranean just south of Italy. It's a quiet place full of history and coastline, and it's become home base for the work he continues to do with men around the world. And after all of that, hi Gavin, welcome. Thanks for being our guest.
What an intro. You are a true professional, Bill. I appreciate that, and an absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Well, if anyone doubting that introduction that you're from Australia, they just found out for sure.
That's right.
Hey, let's start off just real basic. Kind of what's driving your energy today? Where are you? What's going on today?
What's driving my energy today? Well, I just got off an amazing call. We're running a Become a Better Man challenge right now. We're in the middle of it. So thinking about all those men and just seeing the growth in 2 days overcome. So that's probably what's driving me right now.
Yeah, I think that's fabulous, and we'll get into that in a little bit more detail in a bit. But let me start by asking you to go back to the early days, those early years in the gym. What did boxing give you that you needed at that time?
I suppose what really gave me a way to channel, as a young man, a teenager going through that warrior stage that I talk about in my Rite of Passage book, and give me a way I could channel that rage, energy, anger into something that was positive, and I got validated for it because I guess, I gave it my all. So that's what boxing really did for me. It really gave me, but I think even apart from that, probably more important than that, it gave me an insight to a mentor or a coach kind of relationship. Apart from my father, because he had a bit to do with it as well. He was a fighter, but just receiving instructions, and if you don't, there's consequences.
Oh,
yeah. Not by the coach, but just by life, by your opponent.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
That's probably the biggest thing. I learned in my very first amateur fight, a cornerman can see what I can't. He was giving me some great insight how to come back. After getting towed up in the first round, he told me a couple of things. You become very teachable when there's no other option.
Yeah, what's the saying go? Everyone's brave till they're punched in the face or something like that. How old were you when you started? You were in your teens, yes?
16.
16.
Yeah.
And were you fighting people your age, or were you fighting people?
Actually, the first fight, I'd actually just qualified for the next age group. So the first guy I fought was actually 19. And, those couple of years are quite a lot. So it felt like I was fighting a man, and I felt like a boy.
Yeah, the difference between maturity physically and mentally between 16 and 19 is light years. It's so much more a difference than, say, 40 to 43.
Oh.
The incremental growth physically and mentally. So that's pretty amazing. What did you learn about yourself from boxing?
Well, I think because I ended up I fought till I was 34, it's like 18 years, there was, life's about seasons. And I was probably one of the things that I learned, like when I was fighting as an amateur, I could freshen up for a fight. You have there's a training program, but you taper back. When I was a teenager and even in my early 20s, I could taper back in a week. And then I found I needed a week and a half as I got a little bit older. And the fights were, I started fighting 12-round fights. But I remember in my 30s, like 33, 34, I found like I needed like 3 weeks to taper down, to taper back to get my energy back. That's probably, and I think in life, I suppose, I'm 52 now. I suppose what I've learned is try less and trust more. Rely more on my gifts and talents, my instincts, the things that God gave me, I suppose. I can trust more in those things rather than when I was younger. I remember having a coach, great coach, got me to be an Australian champion. He was amazing. But he said I learned some things off him that have failed me in life. And, I'm a father of 7. I had my wife. We've been together since we were teenagers. And what he taught me was, it was okay, I suppose, for a period of time. But he said, we don't wait for opportunities to happen. Like, we don't wait for doors to open. We kick them open. That kind of worked in the boxing realm, but in life, because obviously there's a lot of boxing principles that I've been able to transfer into business, transfer into mentoring, thousands of men, transferred into raising children, But that one sort of didn't work. I mean, it kind of does, but most of the time I've learned I've got to trust more, in timing. Not trying to make things happen, more let things happen.
Yeah, and there's a balance there, and if it's 100% trying to make things happen, that typically doesn't work. Around your earlier years, you were boxing, and you learn from that coach, and now looking back, you understand that part of what he said may not be the best, but you also learned a little bit something about yourself, and you kind of had an inclination that something in your life needed to change. Help us understand what that is, what that was.
Well, I reached a point where I realised the way I was doing things was not working. And to be honest, there was a point, my parents are amazing, and what they started to do was, they started to buy and sell businesses. So I ended up kind of being in a few, like I always helped them, obviously. But I remember being in a caravan park where I met these people from all around the world. They were like backpackers, and they were doing fruit picking. And I met these people and they told me about all these different places from around the world. And I thought to myself, I never said it, but I thought, looking back, I wonder if that will make me into a man. I was longing for an adventure, And so I went traveling overseas, before mobile phones, before you could push a button, find out where you went. And I ended up, in a dozen different countries, over, about, I don't think it was about 8 or 9 months. And really, it really knocked me about. But I ended up back in Australia, carrying on and playing up, self-will run right. And I ended up in a place that treats drug and alcohol, people with drug and alcohol problems. And that's really where I met my first mentor. I met a couple of men, but one of the guys he knew me from the boxing gym, from the boxing world. Now, I knew of him, but I didn't really know him, but I knew him, but he knew me. And he was it felt like he poked me in the chest, and he goes, son, there's something in you that you can only fulfill. There's a purpose. There's a mission, And really, that woke me up. That's what I've been looking for, but I didn't know how or what, And so that was a massive turning point.
So you mentioned, let me go back, and what I heard you say is you got to the point of being in the midst of drugs and alcohol, and it sounds like a stereotypical Australian young man, right? but it also sounds like maybe you took that to a different extent, to a different extreme. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, 100%. I knew from when I am very first drunk at 13 years of age. I vividly remember drinking my first drink, halfway through it thinking, where's the second? And that was just, I'd never ever drunk and thought, oh, I've had enough now. I just would drink until I run out of money, got kicked out, or woke up thinking, what happened? That was just, I don't know. I've learned over time there are three sorts of drinkers. Some can, some can't, and some shouldn't. And you just got to work out which one you are. I was a shouldn't. And probably I've seen that, and other people seen that in me, that I would go great in boxing, and then my coach would say have a week or two off, and that week or two would last, a month or two until I was, I'd get back to
So you get out of the ring and get into a bottle.
Sorry?
You'd get out of the ring and get into a bottle.
That's right.
Or more. Bottle.
Yeah, in some.
So what happened there? What just set the stage for us? How old were you, and what happened? What kind of realization did you have, and how did that happen?
There was probably a couple of moments where I realized, I've been raised that your word was everything. Your word was your bond. You do what you say and say what you do. And the biggest thing that was really hurting me in my integrity, my character, that I wasn't doing what I was saying. I'd say I'd be home at this time, be home 3 days later. And that was breaking, obviously, people around was breaking their heart, But I remember being at my sister's boyfriend committed suicide a year before, and he was a bit of a drinking buddy. And, he was, And I remember going to his graveside his 1 year anniversary since he committed suicide. And I reached a point where I didn't know what else to do. I just didn't know what to do. And I remember when he passed away, I was like, all through my life, every couple of years, I would have these kind of experiences, these spiritual experiences. Like one time I was going to commit suicide myself and put the rope around my neck, and it was like I woke up out of something. But I was awake, and this feeling of peace and love flooded me. Another time I was going to square up with a guy who had beat me up, and I was going to glass him in the nightclub, and I went to glass him, and he kind of walked away in that peace and love. So I knew there was something spiritual looking after me.
Okay.
There was another time when I'm traveling around overseas. Oh man, I could tell you story after story, but I knew I was being looked after. So I went to this gravesite and I said, listen, mate, if you can hear me, I need some help. And that feeling of peace and love fell on me again. And I heard this voice say, everything's going to be okay. And it was like, at that point, I freaked out. I'm going, who's there? And that peace was on me. It was so hard to explain. And literally I drank again. When I said I wasn't going to, when I promised myself, and I drank again. And long story short, I went, my wife took me to a doctor, and he suggested I go to a place for non-drinkers, for people with alcohol problems. And I didn't even know I had a problem. I honestly did not know. And I walked into that meeting, I sat down, and I was a mess. Like, I'd never been so nervous. I'll fight anyone, but walking to a meeting like that sober? No one. I was freaking out. And I sat down and I heard the first couple of speakers, and I thought, I'm going to kill my wife when I get home. She's told everyone all about me. So by the end of the meeting, I realised I was just they were telling their story, and I was exactly the same as them. So that was really the moment where and that guy that come up and said, there's something in you. I thought to myself, maybe this is my second chance.
How old were you then?
22.
22. You went into the meeting and you thought they were telling your story because their story matched yours.
Yeah,
So-
I thought my wife had told them all about me.
Yeah. Probably a good thing she didn't at that point. So how did sobriety shift the way you look at yourself?
Oh man, well, I suppose one of the things I picked up from one of my first mentors was about creating personal oaths, agreements to live by, because that's kind of, I'd shifted my values without, I just did. That's what alcohol did to me. And so how did it change me? Well, I realized I picked up off my first mentor, getting my word back, like I'd created a personal oath around alcohol. Not any, not ever, no negotiation. And so I started to get back in the gym, get to the next meeting, listen to what he was saying, started to read a book. Well, I couldn't read. He started reading some books to me, and I discovered like audio books. But about 6 months into that, things really got bad in 6 months into sobriety. Like me and my wife, we had to start getting food vouchers. Like things were meant to get better.
Yeah.
And of course I had to change the total environment. I couldn't go back to like a job in construction because everyone drank. No, I drank, so I got a job washing dishes, but then because I got back in the gym, I started to get some opportunities and then, I ended up getting an opportunity to come up to get a fight on Fox Sports. And that kind of when things took off, maybe
So-
about a year sobriety, I got this shot and I done real good. And they invited me to fight back the next month.
Okay. So you had that revelation that drinking probably was on your shouldn't list.
Yeah.
And you started to change your life and things started to happen better. So is that when your boxing career kind of rejuvenated and restarted?
Well, 4.5 years, nearly 5 years into sobriety, I got to live my dream. I become the Australian champion. And I went from almost homeless on food vouchers to then we owned 4 bits of real estate, 4 homes. Got an opportunity to own business and I had 12 men working for me. My life changed dramatically, to say the least.
Help me understand when that happened, how did your focus in life change? How did your purpose change? What was your goal? I mean, you achieved the Australian Championship, and what did that do for you? Did that vault you on, or did that leave you questioning what's next?
Well, it was both. It was both because I guess what happened, what do you do when you've got everything that you want? When all your dreams are coming true, But really, I kind of I thought about what got me there was absolutely the 12-step program. But some great coaches, boxing coaches, and started to show me these rites of passages, this transformation from boy to man. And I suppose that's what really, my father imparted and my mother imparted grunt, tenacity, a certain toughness in me. So it gave me a real vehicle to be able to exercise that and bring that out. But it was those rite of passages and things where I, was undeveloped in the past, where I was looking for certain things I was looking for, but you're never going to find it where I was looking. And even in sobriety as well, so whether it be money or fame or, and of course my pride and my ego. I remember a coach saying to me, don't ever let your ability grow more than your humility. So that caused a massive amount of problems for me when I got everything that I want and I was like, man, now what do I do?
So you learned a lot about a rite of passage during that entire process, through sobriety, through boxing, through the mentors that you had in both of those areas, and some of them I'm sure were crossover and had a little bit of both. So through the years, that kind of shifted your purpose, and you realized that you could help other men start to figure out that rite of passage. Is that when you what, was it clear to you and people started coming to you that you could understand what they were searching for based on your experience?
Oh, 100%. That's a big part of when you've gone through an initiation, a validation process, you can spot it in others that haven't been through it. It's like it's looking around with a neon sign. They're looking for all this false validation. They're talking themselves up. It's like, yeah, when you know, you know.
Yeah. What it makes me think of is going back to what you said earlier, that your cornerman could see a lot that you couldn't see. And
That's
you
right.
having been through that allow you to see a lot that those men you work with can't.
Yeah.
And that's kind of
Yeah.
become your drive in life. That's what you've really dedicated yourself to, is helping men through that, yes?
Yes, but I believe inside every man is a mission, is a purpose. I mean, the Bible even says it, that you've been called for a certain time like this. So the timing is everything. And, you've been called, chosen, made, formed before time even began. So when I kind of started to be more open to, hang on, there is a power. Then I started, one of my mentors, a Christian fellow, and he started to show me the truth in the Bible. It's like, that's me. Even though I was anti everything, I couldn't deny that I've been looked after. And of course, in Canada, I was getting ready for a Commonwealth title fight, and I'd reached the end of myself. I'd been ill, and in the dressing rooms, I thought I was that exhausted with this chronic fatigue, I couldn't even do my bootlaces up. And a picture of Christ, it was going to, come, and I was like, God, are you Christ, are you, what's going on here? Because that feeling of peace and love come on me again. And I remember saying to myself, half praying, saying, God, your timing is way out. Like, I've got to fight the number 6 in the world, televised in 32 countries. And you're doing this. And I suppose that fight, that 12 rounds, man, God carried me, saved me. But from that, and I can talk about that pretty easy now. At the time, I couldn't put that into words, what had happened before the fight, how he carried me through it, how he answered my prayer. And even though I turned my back on him, and of course, I ended up going to a church, didn't even know what Easter was about. I thought it was about Easter eggs. Chocolate. That's what the Easter was. And then Christ came to me again and showed me through watching this Easter production the plan for my life. Or not the plan, but through my life, how it looked after me. And then he said, I needed a Gavin Lance Topp, so I made one. Because I thought I was an accident. So I suppose not long after, I ended up going to a men's conference. Some great men took me to a men's conference. And I felt like God spoke to me and said, this is what I want you to do.
Okay. And that's when you started to formulate Fight Like a Pro?
Not at all. That's when I went through the ringer. That's when the conforming started to happen, the undoing of the pride, the undoing of the ego. What is that? Every master was once a disaster. So over years of process, that's I retired, and then a couple of years later, that's when I started that boxing program, basically about serving others. But so many men coming to me wanting to learn how to fight, I'm like, why? Which I think is a good question. So, and because I could see the gaps in them, which I've got in my the Rite of Passage book, the 7 pillars. But in short, every man longs for 3 things: a battle to fight, an adventure to live, and a beauty to rescue. We long for love, for passion. But in the DNA of every man is a warrior. We're built for battle. But there's 2 sorts, Bill. There's trained and there's untrained. It's when you're trained, that's when you have confidence, you have self-esteem, you know who you are in regards to your identity. You can stand firm in your faith. It's when you're untrained, you're trying to overcompensate. Maybe you're using material possessions to try and build yourself up. I mean, I love material possessions. Love them. Love cars, houses, I love a lot. But that's not where my identity comes from.
Okay. So through all of this, you kind of found a purpose that you can take your experience and help other men. You talk about purpose as something steady, even as life changes. How do you explain that to someone who feels lost? How do you share that with the men that come to you?
Well, there's purpose, but then there's a mission. It's almost like your gifts and talents. I can see, Bill, from talking to you, I know you've got an expertise about you. You're a professional. I can see that you've mastered something in your life. You present very well. Okay, you can see you've mastered something, and there's a talent, there's a gift inside every man. He must pursue that, because then that's the things that'll make him. He's been born with the mission inside him. So when he pursues that, he'll be naturally good at it, because he's built that way. Which, well, if you keep pursuing that, you'll end up running into your purpose, the thing you were built for. But then once you discover that, around that passion, I love that pillar, the passion, the passionate man, whereas you've got to have that fire in your belly. Not just to know something, you must pursue it. And that's really when a man comes alive. But then there's that mission. One of the things around mission, I have what I call a mission test. Like one of the questions is, do I know how to do it? Because if the answer is yes, you're thinking too small, Bill. Yeah, because God put something in us that's to grow us.
Wow.
Like for years, I've done that boxing program, Fight Like a Pro for 10 years. You imagine I said to you, Bill, or in 10 weeks, because the qualifier is you've never had a fight. That's the qualifier. You never had a boxing match. So in 10 weeks, we train you up and you get inside the boxing ring in front of up to 1,000 people, of friends and family, and you've never had a fight. So the men who did the best, they got it when I said, do you need to become on the inside to step through those roads? When you develop your makeup, your character, that's when you grow into that man for that mission.
That leads right to something I've been wanting to ask you. And so a lot of the listeners here, a lot of the people listening, care deeply about the men in their lives, but based on what you've seen, based on the men you've worked with, what would you like those people to understand about what men are working through inside of themselves, the inside?
And you know what? It all depends on what stage in life you are, where you're at, depending on the one man. But I think in short, it actually says in the Bible, act like a man. Because a lot of people say, well, what is a man? Some people are really confused in this day and age. Whereas I think, if I could say one thing, I would say there's one scripture in 1 Corinthians 16 where it's Paul saying to the Corinthian church, I'm coming, but I'm paraphrasing it, but until I get there, this is what I want you to do. How I want you to be, the men in the church. And it says, be watchful. It says, be watchful, okay? It says, stand firm in your faith. act like a man. Other versions say, be of courage, be courageous.
Amen.
It says, act like a man. And then it says, be strong and do everything in love. And not the romantic love, the agape love, the love that leads to sacrifice. I will lay my life down for you. That sort of love.
So is that the purpose of your work, is to help men understand what it means to be strong and then to help them come to grips about doing it?
Well, what the Man Alive Experience Masterminds, 12-month program that I do, where it brings men together, and almost the first 3 months is about getting a crystal clear vision of your mission. And we go through your purpose, and some men, their purpose is changing. You know, what I value, I'm sure you agree, what I valued in my 30s was different to my 40s. What I valued in my 40s was different to my 50s. So the purpose will have seasons. So some men come because it's just they need to find the next purpose, the next thing that makes them come alive. And then it's always about building a culture that supports that. Yeah, I mean, there's about 15 different things that we go through every year, but the essence of it is to actually, what is the next season of your life look like? You know, it's called the Man Alive Experience. So what makes you come alive? And some men, it's just to get their families back. Other men, it's to monetize an online business. Other men, it's just, how do I get my purpose? Turn it into a charity.
Yeah, and what I definitely agree with what you're saying here, Gavin, is that our purpose does evolve, it does change, it does transform as we grow and as our experiences grow. But what do you find, what makes it easier for a man to be honest about what he's facing?
Before, can I just go back, you said,
Please
well,
do.
I think when we understand our purpose for our life, I don't think the direction doesn't change, but maybe how we do it changes. Like, I used to just do my program in my city back in Australia. But in actual fact, I think for a lot of men as well, you want to have massive impact. You want to know your life, your purpose counted for something. Whereas today we've got men doing our programs, reading our books from New Zealand to Alaska. Like, it's global now. So I think the direction is still the same. We're making better men, better husbands, fathers, sons, leaders. Men are leveling up in their families, their business, their faith. It's the same, but how we're doing it is different.
Okay. So what helps you stay open and connected to the people you care about?
What helps me? Well, I do create personal lives. I was coaching some men before going through our Become a Better Man challenge, and a similar question come up. And they asked me about creating personal lives that I've got in the Rite of Passage for the Modern Man book. Yeah, back like that first oath around alcohol, not any, not ever, no negotiation. We've created oaths around children. I've got an oath, my oath is to show my kids that dreams can come true. Like, hence, they've got to hear my dream, they've got to see me pursue it, and of course, I mean, for anyone who's got children, they don't necessarily do what you say, but they seem to copy everything we do.
Yeah.
And of course, my children are on mission, man. They are on fire. They're world changers.
I'm not surprised. Speaking of your children and most of our children, we want to teach them. We want them to follow our values, and they kind of watch our video, but like you said, don't always directly engage or listen or follow what our guidance is. But in your case, you said that you only work with what feels true to you.
100%.
What helps you stay aligned with that today? What helps you stay aligned with what you see
I
as
create
the truth?
another oath is I made it at a mate's gravesite when he committed suicide.
You mean?
And I promised, and I thought he was doing great. I looked up to him. And I thought if that can happen to him, it can happen to me. So I made an oath that I was only ever going to do what I love doing. Unless my heart is fully engaged, what I've learned since then, it's not for me. Like, unless my heart is fully engaged, I'm thinking down the track now, I've got a lot more awareness. That's generally somebody else's purpose. And I think what's happened to a lot of men and women, people, if you don't know what your mission and your purpose is, by default, you'll end up following somebody else's. And that's out of alignment. And now I think that's why, we're seeing people burning out. We're seeing the divorce rate go through the roof. We're seeing fatherless children because people are living out of alignment of what they're meant to be doing. So I actually think the best thing we can show our kids is to live a full life.
Well, along those lines, what does a good day look like for you these days? What's a good day for Gavin Topp?
A good day, I'll get up, I'll take the dogs for a bit of a wander. I'll come back, I'll have a cup of tea with my wife. I'll take my daughter to school, my youngest. I'll coach some men. And depending on how long that goes for, I'll make some content for the Gavin Topp YouTube channel. I'll go to the gym, got to stay healthy. I just come back. I've just been down at the ocean. I also, I have a mentor, and I done some work with him. I've got to keep growing. One of my oaths is to be a lifelong learner. I ain't ever going to stop. So that was today. And I'm really on this small island in the Mediterranean. Man, there's a lot of fishing and snorkeling, and it's just beautiful, But there's a small village. I walk a lot here because it's such a small island, and there's afternoon siestas. Man, this is a dream come true. This is actually my wife's dream to come and spend some time here. So we've done 2 years here, and you know what? It's been an amazing season, and I think about the people who didn't wake up this morning.
Yeah.
Or the people that are waiting till the timing's right, till they have enough money, till they have enough of this, till they have enough of that, till they start to live their dream. Or I'll wait till retirement to do what I love. And some of those people don't make it to retirement.
Yeah, we never know, do we?
No.
We just never know. Well, you're certainly a fun guy, and based on the way you just described where you're living, I think I'd like to come and visit with you and hang out for a little bit.
Really?
Outside of your work with other men, and you may have just touched on this, but I know that really drives you and connects with you, helping other men, taking your experience and sharing it with them so that they can start to shape their life. Outside of that work, what really drives you at your core?
I'm a faith man. Every day I'm spending time with God, and outside, a bit like seasons always change, where this has been an adventurous season. I'm about to go to Africa, and I'm about to, where I am now, I'm 80 miles from Africa, Mediterranean, but I'm going to go to Scotland as well. This has just been the season. I've been to the US 3 times this year, been to Italy a couple of times, Croatia. This is just the season that I'm in, but I'm going to go back for Christmas back to Australia because I've got some things I want to do there as well. I love the bush. I've got a horse down there. I had a foal while I've been away. I've got this plan. Just what makes me come on, I'm actually going to get a 2-year-old horse and break it in and document it on YouTube.
I'll look for that one.
Because what I've learned is there's dreams inside every man, every woman. There's dreams. And it takes courage to pursue them. And a lot of the time when I work with the men in our program, I'll take them through how to find your dream, okay? There's a series of teachings and questions we ask ourselves. But most people are dancing to the beat of somebody else's drum. They're worried about what people think, what people say. Hey, there's things in there. I don't even know why I'm going to the Sahara Desert. I just want it.
Yeah.
I just want it.
So inside every human, there's a dream. And not every human recognizes that or understands what the dream is. And that's part of what you help bring to the men you work with, I assume that a lot of what you teach them is you're going to take missteps along the way. You're going to make mistakes
100%.
along the way.
You are not going to do this perfect. In fact, and this is probably where some good boxing principles come in, you learn a lot from getting punched.
Oh, yeah.
And particularly men, we can learn from books, we can learn, but it's when we actually experience what we're doing, with a bit of sweat and a bit of grunt develop. That's really how men learn so much better, by experiencing what we're doing rather than reading about it or watching about it. I mean, obviously there's an element of that, but you've got to do it.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask the question, but I think you've already given the answer. And that is, what have you taken so far from your journey to date? What has this been teaching you? And it sounds like you may have answered that by saying, go for your dream, but help me understand more what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, go for the dream. But I would also say, and maybe add to this, when the dream is big enough, when the dream is clear enough, the odds don't matter. The challenges seem to get smaller. I think a lot of people have failed because their dream is so small. It's predictable. They already know how to do it. It actually doesn't light them up. And that's when a lot of men fail with their discipline, because it's not. We all long for danger and risk. It's uniquely inside us. You look at the only boys, they're looking, they want to throw rocks. It's just in us, man. They want to jump off the roof. It's just who we are. But what happens is we get put in boxes. We allow ourselves to be put in boxes and almost, what's the word? Oh, God, it's escaped me right now. You just shrink your whole life till it's functionable and there's this word I'm trying to say. It'll come to me.
Well, what I hear you saying is we allow ourselves to kind of get boxed in, caged in, locked in, limited. So whatever the right word is, I think that's the point.
I think it's domesticated. That's the word I was looking. Okay. We get so domesticated, and there's no adventure, there's no risk, there's no danger, and we end up boring.
Is it fair to say that along with that risk and danger, now that you're and it was controlled when you were in the ring, but risk and danger doesn't open the door to bringing risk and danger and negativity to the world or other people, right? I mean, it's risk and danger. Like
others must benefit.
Pardon me?
Others must benefit from it.
Exactly. I just want to make sure that was clear.
God gave his brains to you. We're not built to be selfish and self-absorbed. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like for example, when my wife had a dream to spend a season in Malta. So I said, all right, talk about it. I want her dreams to come true. Said, all right, in 3 months, we're going. And the next day she said, this is great, Gav. What do we need to do? You know what I said? I didn't say I don't know. I said, get a pad and pen and we'll work it. Yeah, all right. Let's get a bit of a direction here. Is it risky? Well, we don't even know if it is or not.
Yeah. Well, that makes a lot of sense.
But it was worth going all in on. And I'll tell you something, what I learned that I didn't know, because I've got 7 kids. I had 6 living with me. One's in, where was he? South America, Argentina. But the other 6 are living with me, right? And they spent time with me. But now I've actually only got 2 children with me because the other ones are older. They're flying the least. Whereas if I didn't take that risk and trust my instincts, the last 2 summers in Europe have been absolutely amazing. Whereas if we had to stay in the comfort zone, I would have missed out. They would have missed out. So, you live a life of adventure. Well, I've got it in my book. You live a life of adventure that would inspire others.
life adventure to inspire others. And I think it's safe to say that our dreams typically lie outside of our comfort zone. We've got to step out of our comfort zone. We've got to stretch that and move. So we're about at the time that you committed to, and I appreciate it very much. But just a couple more things. What is it that you hope the people listening to this conversation we've been having, what is it that you hope they take away from this?
I hope I'd actually like to give them something. I would actually, and this is for men and women, because every woman listening to this will know a man who needs this. If everyone goes to Gavin Topp, GavinTopp.com, you put your email in there, go to that website. There some teachings there on the 8 biggest mistakes successful men are making. And I've yet to see a man that goes through that teaching and think, oh, I didn't even realize I was making that mistake. I can see where that's going to lead me. We've all got our blinkers on. Where these 8 biggest mistakes successful men are making, you've only got to do one wrong move and it causes a disaster. Let alone most men are doing 2 or 3 and not even realising it. So that's one thing I hope men get. Of course, we've got other ebooks and challenges. We've got a heap of stuff. Believe me.
Well, Gavin Topp, TOPP.com is certainly going to be in the show notes for people that aren't in a place where they can write this down. Gavin, I'm really grateful for our conversation. I've learned a lot and gained some keen insight, and I certainly believe that our listeners have. And I hope they let me know what they've heard and what they agree with and what they don't. And they know how to get in touch with me. That's also in the show notes. But I can't leave without asking you the question that every single guest on the show has asked, and that's in the context, however you choose to answer it, Gavin, what's the point?
What's the point? Every man is going to die, but not every man is going to actually live. No, if you don't live, nobody's going to do it for you. Men, step up, be a man.
Does that carry through to women as well?
100%. I've got 5 amazing daughters. I suppose I talk as a man to men because I run a men's program. But the whole purpose of running a men's program is to actually create better men for our women. So I know my purpose. I know my job. I'm doing my bit.
Okay. Well, again, thank you so much for sharing your story, sharing your heart, being so transparent. And you remind us that purpose is something that we grow into, that oftentimes strength looks a lot like honesty. So listeners, if Gavin's story stirred something in you, I hope you find your own sense of what matters. You can certainly reach out to me. Go to GavinTopp.com. Again, thank you, Gavin, and thank you, listeners, and I look forward to continuing our relationship.
Yeah, and thank you, Bill.
Pleasure.
Ciao.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in. And if you like what you've heard, please subscribe so you don't miss an episode. We can promise there is value to be gained in every one. Taking a second to rate, review, and share the show helps make us more discoverable and enables others to find out what's the point. If you'd like to learn more about Bill Ellis and his services, please visit his website, billellis.com. See you next time.